Lewis Thompson, the brilliant force behind the incredibly successful coffee chain Golden Brew, was not just any ordinary CEO, he was a man on a mission. Lewis didn't build his business just to be profitable. He was driven by a set of core values that shaped the foundation of Golden Brew. Values like equality, outstanding service, and providing opportunities for all. He wanted every customer to feel like they belonged, and he aimed for every employee to treat people with kindness and respect, no matter their background or status. Despite his towering success, Lewis was not the kind of leader who lost touch with the day-to-day experiences of his customers. In fact, he often asked himself, "Are my employees truly living up to the company's values?" To get some answers, Lewis decided to take matters into his own hands. Instead of sending an email or making an official announcement, he made an unannounced visit to one of Golden Brew's busiest city branches. But this wasn't your typical visit. Lewis didn't show up in his usual sleek suits. Instead, he traded them for a simple hoodie and jeans, blending in as just another customer. To anyone watching, he was indistinguishable from anyone else in line. The moment Lewis walked into the store, he was immediately hit with a familiar, comforting scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. The store was alive with energy, customers chatting, baristas rushing behind the counter to fill orders, and the low hum of a bustling cafe. Lewis couldn't help but smile. It was exciting to see his employees working in action. But then, something caught his attention. A blonde employee standing behind the counter who was not participating in the hustle and bustle. Instead of assisting customers, she was leaning against the counter, scrolling through her phone as a long line of customers waited, clearly annoyed by the delay. Lewis, maintaining his trademark warmth, stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said politely, "could I get some help, please?" The employee, whose name tag read Karen, barely looked up from her phone. With a dramatic sigh, she rolled her eyes, muttering, "I'm busy. Go wait like everyone else." Stunned by her rudeness, Lewis paused for a moment. He stepped back into the line and watched as Karen finally put her phone away and begrudgingly began helping the customers. However, Lewis quickly noticed something much more troubling. It wasn't just her attitude towards him. It was her treatment of certain customers. Karen greeted white customers with a warm smile, taking their orders swiftly and chatting pleasantly. But when customers of color approached the counter, her attitude changed entirely. She became cold, dismissive, and rushed them through their orders without offering so much as a smile or even basic politeness. The atmosphere in the room began to feel tense as Lewis stood there, observing. When it was finally his turn again, he approached the counter with determination, hoping to see if her previous behavior was a one-off mistake. "Hi," he said with his usual friendly tone. "I'd like a medium latte, please." Karen barely glanced up. "We're out of that," she said flatly. Lewis frowned. He had just seen her prepare that same drink for another customer moments earlier. "Are you sure?" he asked calmly, but with a firm edge. Without looking at him, Karen crossed her arms and shot him a sharp look. "Try another store," she snapped. The room seemed to go completely still as Lewis absorbed the moment. Disbelief and disappointment mixed in his chest. Was this really how his employees treated customers when they thought no one important was around to see? Without saying another word, Lewis nodded and quietly walked out of the store. He had seen enough. This situation wasn't just about poor customer service. It was about something much deeper, something more troubling. As he walked back to his car, his mind raced with questions. How many other customers had been treated the same way? How many had left the store feeling unwelcome, disrespected, or invisible? There was no doubt in Lewis's mind. This wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. That day, Lewis walked out of Golden Brew without revealing who he truly was, but inside, his heart was heavy with concern. This wasn't about bad service. It was about discrimination, something he had worked tirelessly to eliminate from his company. Back at Golden Brew headquarters, Lewis wasted no time in addressing the matter. He immediately pulled up customer feedback and employee reports from the city branch he had visited. What he found only deepened his frustration. Complaints about rude service and unequal treatment kept appearing, with many pointing specifically to the blonde employee, Karen. Some customers even mentioned that they felt unwelcome because of their race. It didn't take long for Lewis to connect the dots. Karen had a history of this behavior. But that wasn't all. Lewis also discovered that Jessica, the store manager, had not filed any official reports about Karen's actions. Determined to get to the heart of the issue, Lewis scheduled a private meeting with Jessica. At first, Jessica seemed hesitant, admitting that she had noticed Karen's behavior but had never spoken up about it. Karen's popular with some of the staff, Jessica nervously explained. If I called her out, I was worried it would cause tension. I didn't want to make things worse. Lewis listened carefully, his expression calm but serious. He assured Jessica that creating a fair, inclusive, and welcoming workplace was far more important than avoiding conflict. Thank you for your honesty, but allowing this behavior to continue is simply unacceptable, Lewis said firmly. With Jessica's cooperation, Lewis began planning his next steps. Just 1 week later, he returned to the same Golden Brew branch, but this time, he wasn't dressed casually. He walked in sharply dressed in a tailored suit, accompanied by a small team of executives. The sight of him caused the store to fall into complete silence. Customers stopped mid-sip, and employees whispered nervously among themselves. When Lewis Thompson called for a staff meeting, he made sure everyone in the room knew it was important. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" His voice rang out, calm yet commanding. Employees gathered in the seating area, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern, wondering what was coming. Karen, who had been scrolling through her phone, leaned casually against the counter. But as soon as she realized who was speaking, her eyes widened in recognition. She quickly tucked her phone away into her pocket, her confident stance faltering. "My name is Lewis Thompson," he began, his voice firm and unwavering. "I'm the CEO of Golden Brew." The air in the room shifted, and a collective gasp filled the space. Karen's face drained of color as she froze, realizing the gravity of the moment. Lewis took in the room, his gaze finally resting on her. "Last week, I visited this store Undercover. I wanted to see for myself how customers were treated." He locked eyes with Karen, the tension palpable. "What I witnessed was unacceptable. I was ignored, dismissed, and lied to. And from the complaints I've reviewed, it's clear I'm not the only one." Karen stammered, I didn't know it was you." Lewis raised his hand to silence her. "It doesn't matter who I am. Every customer deserves respect, not just the ones you think are important." The room was thick with tension as Karen, usually so self-assured, seemed to shrink in place. She muttered weak excuses, but it was clear they wouldn't help her now. Lewis wasn't done yet. He looked at the entire team and spoke with authority, sending a clear message to everyone present. "Golden Brew was built on the idea that everyone is welcome," he said. "This kind of behavior has no place here, and it will not be tolerated." As Karen sat there, stunned and silent, Lewis prepared to deliver the justice she had long needed. This wasn't just a lesson for her, it was a bold statement to everyone about what his company truly stood for. Standing firm at the front of the room, Lewis addressed his team with a calm but resolute tone. "Let me make one thing absolutely clear," he said. "Racism and poor service have no place at Golden Brew. Our mission is to create a welcoming environment for everyone, and that mission will never be compromised." The room remained silent, all eyes now on Lewis. Turning his attention back to Karen, who was nervously fidgeting with her name tag, he continued. "Karen, your behavior last week and the complaints I've reviewed show a clear pattern of disrespect and discrimination. This is unacceptable, and I cannot allow it to continue." Karen's face turned an even deeper shade of pale as she stammered. "Wait. I can change. It won't happen again, I swear." But Lewis shook his head firmly. "I gave you multiple chances to do the right thing. With every customer you served, you chose not to. Effective immediately, you're no longer employed at Golden Brew." Karen gasped, her eyes scanning the room, desperately searching for support, but no one came to her defense. Her co-workers remained silent, unwilling to back her up. Lewis then turned to Jessica, the store manager. "Jessica, I understand the challenges you've faced, But as a leader, it's your responsibility to ensure that this workplace reflects our core values. I'm giving you the tools you need to succeed. Jessica nodded, a mix of relief and determination filling her eyes. Lewis explained that Jessica would receive additional training on team management and leadership, with company-wide support to ensure the store became a positive, inclusive space for everyone. He then announced a sweeping change across all Golden Brew locations. Starting today, we're implementing mandatory diversity and inclusion training for every employee, he said, his voice firm. These sessions will focus on treating every customer with the respect they deserve and ensuring that Golden Brew remains a place where everyone feels welcome. We will not wait for problems to arise. We will address them proactively. The news of the incident quickly spread, with several customers who had witnessed the confrontation sharing the story online. Social media exploded with praise for Lewis's swift and decisive action. Posts flooded in from people applauding his leadership and thanking Golden Brew for standing up for its values. Almost immediately, the changes Lewis had implemented began to show results. Customers noticed the improved atmosphere at the cafe, and many expressed their gratitude to the staff for making them feel comfortable and respected. The local community, which had once been wary of the branch, began returning in greater numbers, and business soared. For Lewis, the experience served as a reminder of why he had founded Golden Brew in the first place. It wasn't just about serving great coffee. It was about creating a business that stood for something greater. He reflected on the importance of leadership and how one decisive action could reshape the culture of an entire company. One afternoon, while visiting another store, Lewis spotted a young black barista working diligently behind the counter. The barista looked up, and his eyes widened with recognition. "You're Mr. Thompson," he exclaimed, his excitement palpable. "You're the reason I wanted to work here." Lewis smiled, deeply touched by the young man's words. He spent the afternoon mentoring the barista, sharing valuable advice on leadership and success. As they spoke, Lewis felt an overwhelming sense of pride, not only in the company he had built, but in the example he had set for others. He knew that real change didn't come from words alone. It came from taking action. Lewis was determined to inspire others to follow suit and make a real difference. Golden Brew wasn't just a coffee shop, it was a symbol of inclusivity, equality, and the power of doing what's right. And that, Lewis thought, was the most important achievement of all.